Just wanted to point out the information we provide today is of a general advice. If you do want some more information, please seek some professional advice.
Well, welcome to the Retirement Living Your Way podcast, where we have real conversations with Troy Theobald and the team from RFS Advice. And today I'm actually joined by Belinda Veriton. Welcome, Belinda.
Thank you, Greg.
It's great to have you back. Due to popular demand, the last episode we did was around some of the changes on home care and residential aged care. And we thought today let's have a bit of a deeper dive into that whole home care space, because obviously as a lot of Australians are getting older and older, a lot of people are wanting and choosing to stay at home. And rather than moving to care, actually have care come and visit them and look after them. So I just thought there's probably lots that we can actually talk about if that works for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. And look, for those of you that aren't familiar, Belinda actually runs the RFS care team at RFS Advice. We're effectively specialising in home care, residential aged care. Belinda's an absolute trip. Been with the business for over 10 years, a shareholder in the business, and you do this day in, day out.
I do. I have the privilege of helping lots of families every year walk this care journey.
Why do you love it so much?
You know, it's just great to see somebody's face light up when you make something simple for them, because there are lots of complexities that can eventuate in terms of the finances, and it's a bit bewildering. There are lots of rules and regulations and, you know, different ways that things get assessed, and when you make it simple and straightforward and you just lift that burden from them, it's just such a relief.
Yeah.
And it's also great to be able to know that people are accessing the care in their home to be able to be independent for longer, to have that quality of life. I've done aged care at home. Like, I know what that looks like.
Yes.
As a kid growing up, we had my great-great-aunts lived in the house with us. We were pretty much their support system because, you know, they were all spinster great-aunts.
Yes.
And so, you know, I've watched the care journey, and it's so great when people are not alone. They have that ability to still be part of community. Yeah. They don't have to be isolated. There's nothing worse than somebody who is just left to vegetate and slowly shrinks into themselves and becomes dissociated from society. So the whole care space, it's not just about providing the ability to get the cleaning done or the bit of lawn mowing that's, you know, a bit too much these days or that kind of thing. There's also that social support. So there's that ability to, you know, have a carer come and take you to an event, or spend some time playing cards or playing chess, or there are all kinds of those types of supports that are wrapped into that home care space as well. So it's a total well-being. It's not just the physical stuff that you can't do anymore.
It's interesting. Obviously, having these sorts of conversations with Troy regarding the wealth side and the retirement side, it's very much on the emotional. It's very much it's not about the money. It is about the money, but it isn't. It's about the deeper things, and I think that, you know, what you've just said there really just resonates with me, because we see it time and time again when, you know, you're dealing with clients, the relief that you're able to provide them. And in your part of the world, it's not just necessarily just the clients, it's also the family around those clients as well, because everyone's worried about whether it's mum or dad, or whether it's a partner. So being able to provide comfort, you know, and whether that is bringing people into the home to help, or whether that is for those that are moving into that residential aged care as well. So I think that's, it's an interesting part. I think people often misjudge what we ultimately do at RFS Advice, but it's very much at the things that matter most. That's what we really pride ourselves on.
Absolutely. So, I mean, money is only useful for what it can buy you, or what the experiences it can provide. At the end of the day, it's not, you know, Scrooge McDuck used to go swimming in his money. I don't know any of our clients that are that interested in doing that.
No.
They're more interested in the experiences that it can provide, or the lives that it can change, or the legacy that it can leave, or the good that it can do. Yeah. And it's likewise in the care space. What we get to see is people who are happier, healthier, better taken care of at the end of the day.
So let's I guess take it back a step then. When we're talking about home care and that sort of avenue, we often hear the term home care package.
Yes.
Can you just sort of touch on that? I think we just
Sure.
let's break it down nice and easy for people to fully
Absolutely.
understand.
So the care environment starts with an ACAT, actually. So in order to access any care that is, government funded, you need what's called an assessment. So that's done by the aged care team. So hence the term ACAT, aged care team assessment. And that ACAT assessment is primarily to determine what the care needs actually are. And this is where we find people actually sometimes go wrong, unintentionally, but they go wrong. So there's lots of care out there, and it is broken up fundamentally probably into two major parts. So we get the home care package side, as you mentioned, but prior to that, there's also the Commonwealth Home Support Program. And so that's, if you just need the odd little service here or there. So that might be, accessing.
Sorry, define service.
Yeah, service. Okay, so that might be cleaning,
Yes.
or it might be, that you need the lawn mowed because it's too much for you, or it might be that you need transportation to the doctor or the hospital visits that you need to do, but each of those services comes with a code. So in that circumstance, it's usually the gateway or the pathway into care and accessing care. But each of those services has got what we call a referral code, meaning that if you want to access that particular service, then you call the providers of that service in your area and you try to get a slot with them. So the funding is actually given to the organisations, if you like. So it might be St Vinny's, or it might be Anglicare, or it might be Auscare. They get a bunch of funding from the government to provide those types of services. So like small ad hoc services, you pay a small co-payment, and that's basically how that one works. Okay, so that's the one type of care. And the other type of care, as you said, is the package care. But for either of those, you still need this thing called an assessment. Now, if that assessor rocks up to have a chat with you, Greg, and you say, "Oh no, I'm managing fine," there was a reason why you actually called the assessor.
Yes.
I mean, they didn't just rock up there because, they decided on a random Tuesday to come visit you.
Yes.
You've called them, you've made the appointment, but then they rock up and you say, "I'm managing just fine." So what do you think the assessor can do? They can only mark it on the paper that you're managing just fine.
Yes.
And so they can't give you any services. So the first step in this care journey is actually to set aside the pride, to not be answering the questions of the assessor in the manner that, it's your best case scenario of how you hope it's going to be on a Tuesday. It's actually to answer the questions from the perspective of the worst case scenario on the day that the wheels fell off and actually there wasn't anybody there to help you.
Yeah.
Because our family and our friends can pinch it. They can get in there and help us out in an emergency, but they can't be there every single day. They can't, be the person who's always going to leave their job and come and, take you to the doctor or whatever it is that you might need. So accessing care begins with the notion of setting the pride aside and just being honest about the things that are challenging.
So just on that then, what triggers do you find sort of come into play for people to go and have the ACAT assessment? I'm just thinking if somebody's listening now and they're thinking, no, I'm fine, or actually I'm a bit worried, I'm either struggling with, like you said, the yard, or there may be some daily activities. What are those things do you see in your experience where people sort of stop and think, actually maybe it is time? Or do you find that it's normally family members of the individual who observe that it's starting to become time to maybe get some help just to make life a bit easier?
I've had it go both ways. I would love to say that most often it's the person who's going to be receiving the care that sticks their hand up and says, help. But actually it's probably more the families that say, don't you need a little bit of help?
Yes.
Can we assist you to maybe not have to worry about doing X, Y, Z? The triggers are usually that slight reduction in mobility.
Right.
So that inability to easily bend and move around, I watch it in my own family. My own husband has back issues and he doesn't want to be doing the vacuuming. He's very lucky. He has a hot young wife,
well,
right?
I was going to say, gee, no, I don't want to do the vacuuming either.
No, look. So he's lucky in the sense that, he doesn't have to do the vacuuming. He's got, kids and a wife who will do that for him. But that's not the case for everybody who's getting older. And so that sort of slight reduction in mobility is definitely one of the triggers. The other one is where family sort of starts to observe that maybe people don't want to cook for themselves as much anymore. Cooking for one isn't as much fun as cooking for a family.
No.
I know that if I was single, I'd exist on scrambled eggs and toast. That's probably not a good thing, not a balanced meal. But certainly, it's perhaps not as much fun to cook for one. So that might be an indication that, maybe some meal prep assistance might not be a bad thing. Or, the garden is looking a little bit overgrown, and so, it's actually, we could do with a mow a little bit more often than what it's actually happening. So those are the sort of beginnings of triggers. And then, can progress from there to quite a far advanced stage before residential care is actually ever needed.
Yes.
It might be that you have a home care package in place for a couple of decades.
Yes.
I have seen people access home care and, access those services progressively at a higher and higher level for more than a decade. Yeah. That help is available.
Absolutely.
So there's nothing wrong to actually put your name down for an ACAT if you are feeling that perhaps, it's not quite as comfortable to move around as freely as what you used to.
And then, so if someone puts their name down, how long does that take? What's the process? What's the process? Because I hear it takes a lot longer and it's a lot harder to actually get someone to do the assessment. How's your experience been in that area?
So 6 months ago, in fact, it's not even that, 4 months ago, I had somebody that was trying to apply for a home care package, and they were told that there was a 10-month wait on an ACAT assessment. So that's a long lead time. Wow. Now, that is coming down a bit. The government has made some moves in that space to try and streamline things so that there is now one assessment for both types of home care that you might access. So whether it's the Commonwealth Home Support Program or whether it's the home care package itself, that is now a single assessment, so a single point of contact, and they've got several providers in there which are now doing that job. So hopefully we're going to see that lead time actually comes, or lag time, whichever way you want to put it, it comes down a bit, and that you can actually access, an assessment fairly quickly. But then from there, there's still another wait to actually get assigned a package. Right. So you can go through the assessment. You can be approved for a level 2 or a level 3 package, for example, and then there is a wait to actually have that funding allocated to you. So to clarify, a home care package is different than the Commonwealth Home Support Program system. In the Commonwealth Home Support Program, we've got providers being given the budget. In the home care package system, or the supported home package system as it's now going to be called, the person receiving the care actually receives the budget. So Greg, you've been assigned a level 3 package or whatever. This is your bundle of funding, and it will come to you in quarterly instalments. Right. Okay. You get to use that how you see fit. So you'll sit down with a care provider. You'll go through the things which you need. So for you, it might be
someone to do the vacuuming.
Yeah, maybe. Or it might be, that you want to sit down and play bridge with somebody for an afternoon once a fortnight, or whatever it might be. You then agree with that provider, and they will then assist you to actually have a carer come to your home and do those things that you need done. So it's a case of the budget is individually yours. Right. The home care provider is the person who provides the care, and that could be a scenario where you've actually gone with an organisation that's well known, or it could be that you have gone, I'll manage the package myself and I'll find my own carers. There's that option too. But fundamentally, the difference between the two sides of care is that the package system provides you with your own defined budget. and you get to use that for the stuff that you need. Now, there is obviously a list of prescribed services that
I was
are
going to say,
covered,
yeah,
and
that's
some
right.
things that are
Yeah.
not. You cannot
Yes.
go and buy yourself, a large screen TV
Yes.
under that package. That's not how that works.
No.
Okay, but certainly, if you have a occupational therapist provide you with an assessment of the stuff that you find challenging, there's a huge variety of different services out there that can be accessed through the package. And that's everything from wound care in a clinical sense all the way through to meal preparation on the other end.
And then for an individual that has been approved and has funding,
Yes.
what additional or out-of-pocket expenses? Like I'm assuming that the home care provider would, advise, because you don't want surprises, do you? You
No.
think, okay, well, I've received some funding.
Yes.
I know I need this list of services.
Yes.
We want to make sure there's no surprises.
Absolutely.
How confident can people be in that process?
Okay. So there's a couple of things that play into your contribution towards the services, because in all likelihood there will be a contribution. The one thing that we do have to take into account is whether or not you have received the approval prior to 12 September 2024. If you did, then you are what we call grandparented, and so you have one set of rules applied to you. People entering the system now and only being approved after 1 November, they will have a different set of rules, and going forwards, their contribution is defined by two factors. So the first factor is their financial status. So are they a full pensioner, part pensioner, Commonwealth Seniors Healthcare card holder, or fully self-funded retiree with no concession cards at all? So that's the first criteria for how much you're going to contribute to particular services. And the second is what type of service you're actually accessing.
Right.
So in the new regime of contributions, you will have the highest contribution to services that are everyday living expenses. So that would be things like your cleaning and your meal preparation. There would be an intermediate contribution towards things like independence activities. So that would be things like showering or social support. And there would be no contribution on your behalf for things that are clinical.
Right.
So clinical services would include things like physiotherapy, wound dressing, medication management by a registered nurse, all of those kinds of things. They are clinical services, so that's fully billed to the package budget, and there's no contribution for anybody in relation to that. But the other two types of services are definitely going to have a contribution.
Right.
Whether that's a small contribution or a large contribution depends on your financial status.
Yes. And I guess this is really the advantage of speaking with a professional who understands it, not only from a financial point of view, but someone's actually worked with clients and lived and breathed it effectively. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Because it is complicated. It is complicated. There's no other way to sort of say it.
It is. So, and people need to understand what their cash flow is going to look like, going forward. So the current rules were really quite straightforward in terms of contributions to care packages, that, sort of daily income tested fee. It was not particularly onerous in the way that was calculated, and it was really straightforward to understand. It was just, if your income tested fee was $2 a day, well, that's $2 times 365 days. That's what you contribute for the year. Going forwards, it's not quite like that. It's, as I said, dependent on those two different factors, your pensioner status and the type of service that you're actually accessing. So it is important to then look at the budget in that light and to work out with your care coordinator what that looks like for you and what services you then choose to actually build to the package. And maybe there'll be some that you won't choose to fund through your package.
Right, so you've got the choice.
You've got the choice.
Yep.
So, just because you've been approved for, let's say, a level 3 supported home package, and you might need things like, social support, in other words, somebody to take you out to things because you can't drive anymore, or you might and or you might need meal preparation and cleaning, but you may choose to, for example, pay for the cleaning out of your own pocket rather than bill it to the budget, because that might not actually work in your favour in terms of the overall picture. Yeah. So yes, there is going to be a bit more planning in how your budget gets used.
So I was meaning to ask you before the packages and the levels. Do you mind just explaining, I guess, the differences between them, if that's okay?
So the old system was 4 levels of packages, 1 to 4. And level 1 was the lowest level of package in terms of budget. So that would give you the least amount of care. Level 4 was quite substantial, and that would give you a fair amount of care, probably somebody to come out every day if you needed. You could stretch it that far. But that's probably just, half a step away from being in residential care. In terms of the numbers of each of those packages that were around, there were a lot of level 1 packages, a few less at the level 2. Levels 3 and 4 were harder to get, and so you would sit in a queue to get to one of those. The new system, which is a supported home package system, there's 8 levels of packages. Right. So a more graduated approach, a higher top level of budget. So certainly, a level 8 package is going to provide you with more than what a level 4 previously would have. There's also going to be extra funding available for large equipment items. So there is a particular budget that you can access which is completely separate from those 1 to 8 package levels that would just deal with mobility and equipment needs. So that might be grab rails in the bathroom, or it might be, a wheelchair, or it might be something like that. There is also discussion around the government potentially funding that through a rental program going forward. So in other words, not actually needing to purchase some of those things. So there's still talk around that. That's not finalised yet. In addition to that, there's another pathway that is available for funding, and that is palliative care funding. So that is specific to if somebody has a palliative diagnosis, they want to pass it home rather than being in residential aged care or in the hospital, then there is a package of funding that people can access for that.
Right.
So there should be, in theory, and certainly in practice, because that's what they've announced, more packages available.
Yes.
The manner in which the packages are managed should also mean that funding doesn't sit clogged up in the system. So in other words, previously people could actually save up in their package. In other words, let's say they had a level 4 package and they needed a large item like a wheelchair. They could actually have relatively few services for quite a while, see that package build up, and then they could buy the big ticket item, for example. That's not going to be allowable under the new rules. So the budget's really, if you don't use it in the quarter, you can only roll over a maximum of $1,000 to $1,500 to the next quarter. What that means is that effectively you can't have people hoarding money in their package and not using it. It's either use it or lose it. And that should then free up funding for other people to be able to use. So it should mean that there will be more packages available, more care available to those people who need it. The wait times should come down.
Yeah, we've just got to get over this bit of hump.
We've got to get over the transition, which is not a small thing to do.
No. And just before we were talking about that length of time, to me it just makes so much sense to really get the assessment, have your name done earlier.
Yes.
Because otherwise you don't want to be doing that when you're at that point where you really, really need it. Exactly.
And so a lot of people fall foul of this notion of, I won't do it because, then it means they'll put me in a nursing home. If they give me the referral code, that means they'll put me in a nursing home. That's not the case at all. The government would far rather that people actually stay at home and access the care at home because it's cheaper.
Yes.
It's cheaper for people to receive services at home than it is for them to go into residential aged care.
Yeah, wow.
So if you get the services earlier, or you get in the queue, or you get in the system and get your details registered with My Aged Care, have that initial assessment, even if it's only a little bit of care that you're being allocated, at least you are known to My Aged Care. You can get a reassessment more easily. And then there is not that urgent, acute situation where somebody falls, has a bone broken, they've got a rehabilitation period, they can't get the care in time to actually have the services at home to assist them or support them. And so guess what? Then they're off to residential aged care, and they didn't need to be.
No. Yeah. And I know that's something that is certainly close to your heart, just getting people, getting the support in at home.
Yeah, just don't be stubborn about it.
What do you see the advantages? Like, there's so many benefits of people living at home and having the support come through. Obviously, independence is one.
Independence is huge. I think that mindset of being able to be in control of your own destiny is huge. I think for a lot of people that moving into the nursing home changes the psychology of tackling life. So being able to be in your own home, surrounded by your own things, be able to be in charge of your destiny and, be able to control your own outcomes is huge. I think being part of a community is really important. So nursing homes there are some lovely people who look after residents inside of nursing homes, and they do their absolute level best to create lifestyle activities and all of those kinds of things. But the reality is that there are not as many visitors to residential aged care as what there should be. There are some frightening statistics around people just not receiving visitors at all. Yeah, there are some residents that just never have a visitor.
Yeah, which is heartbreaking.
Which is absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah.
When you're in your own home and you've got some independence around you, you can make contacts with other people. There is that opportunity to get out there and be part of society and to feel like a useful part of society.
And it sounds like you can tailor or personalise the plan.
You absolutely can. That's the whole idea, is that it is care that meets you where you need to be met.
Which is fantastic.
Yes. But it's just getting around the mindset of accessing that. I have some wealth clients that I look after that are really stubborn around this notion of accessing care, and for no other reason than that they don't want somebody in their home.
Yeah.
But the reality is they are getting more frail, and they really do need to be able to access that emergency, if nothing else, of just being able to push a button.
Yeah.
And have an ambulance come.
No, that's exactly right. So where do you sort of fit in with, from a financial planning perspective? How does that conversation...
How do I have this conversation with my clients?
I guess it's definitely that, but then it's also factoring that into the wealth side, or their asset and position as well. How does that sort of all... Because it's all related, obviously. We know from the means test and so forth.
Absolutely. So, for some people, the affordability is not an issue. For other people, affordability is an issue. Yes. So it's looking at a way to make it sustainable and still get them the services that they need. So for a lot of people, numbers are not their friend. That's probably part of the reason that they come to see a financial advisor. It's not the only reason. No. There are some people out there who will come to see a financial planner not because maths is not their strong suit, just because they need somebody to give them an objective perspective.
Yes.
But for a lot of people who are, getting to the stage where care might be something they do want or need to access, part of it is just not knowing what's out there. So it's just educating people.
Yep.
So education is huge. And the other thing is then, just sitting down with them and looking at the budget and saying, okay, so, what does this actually mean from a long-term perspective? So if I spend this bit on care now, is that really going to make a difference to the overall in the end? So for some people, they really are of the era or the generation where frugality is prime and they don't spend money on themselves. They want to preserve everything as, an estate value for their kids. And so they'll just hold back and be reluctant. And the kids don't necessarily have the same opinion.
No.
Like the kids that we deal with are generally just lovely people, and they just want mum and dad to be comfortable, have the right care,
Absolutely.
Not to have to worry. A lot of kids are interstate. They would far rather that the parents accessed the care and, didn't leave them such a big inheritance, but were happy and healthy and well taken care of. So it's making people aware of different perspectives, I guess, and not neglecting their own well-being.
Yeah, and what sort of role does the family play in this? Like, do you end up having conversations with the broader family, or you tend to find in this space it doesn't go to that? Because obviously in the residential aged care, when we're getting down the track a little bit further, obviously the families tend to get more involved. Do you find in this space that's the case?
Okay, so I'm going to start with, we are bound by the Privacy Act, so I can't just go talking to clients, kids without their permission. So it has to be a conversation. It definitely has to be a conversation with the client around what their thoughts and their feelings are, how they're managing at home, and it's part of our review process. As a wealth advisor, that's something which I always touch on in my review meetings is, is everything going okay at home? And I watch how people walk into my office. Yeah. I look at their gait. I look at how they move. I look at whether they are stiff or whether they wince in pain, or, all of those little non-verbal clues give me a picture of how they're actually tracking physically. Yes. I always ask them about their health because that can impact how we plan. It impacts how much time frame we potentially have. So all of those things are just kind of second nature that happen without my clients necessarily realizing that I'm, clocking how their well-being is. But after we kind of get to that point of, I'm struggling with the mowing, there's also the conversation of, have you chatted to your kids around this? Are your children aware? Because sometimes families are interstate and they're not aware of how mum and dad are going. So my encouragement is always to have that open family conversation. And then sometimes it will go to the point where I will say, okay, well, just so that we are really clear, who is your enduring power of attorney? Can I have a copy of that document on file? Yes. And sometimes, so if if God forbid there was an accident or something and I needed to call somebody, who would I call? Yep. So who would be the people that you would feel comfortable for me to talk to? Have you made provision for those people to actually have some kind of legal standing? So that's the enduring power of attorney document. And then sometimes, actually this last week, I had a case where I actually had to pick up the phone and use that contact that I'd asked permission for. Yes. Because I couldn't get hold of my client, and we haven't for 3 weeks now. And so I called her daughter. Yes. And it turns out she's actually in hospital. She's not well. Right. And so now I've got a meeting to meet with the powers of attorney. Right. So yes, at that point, it is now a conversation with powers of attorney because her capacity is impaired. Yeah. And so then we therefore move forwards with basically them being her representative decision maker.
But where you had the right pieces in the right place.
Correct. So that takes forward planning. Yeah. And so that's the question that all wealth advisors should ask their clients is, have you done your will? Have you done your power of attorney? Do you have an advanced health directive? Yes. Which are standard questions for us at RFS.
Yes. And then so when you're having a look at someone going into home, they're accessing home care, and then they've got their package.
Yes.
Over time, as their health, say, deteriorates, obviously the level of funding.
So you just need a reassessment?
Just reassessment. So that's quite an easy process.
So the home care provider will quite often initiate that.
Okay, great.
And actually help the client through that.
Yes.
And certainly, the good providers out there, they're actually really good at spotting where there is that decline and then moving to the next stage of getting the reassessment and potentially talking with whomever they need to speak with in the family around the progress in that regard.
Yes. So just sort of in interest of time, if someone is sitting there now listening and thinking, is now the time?
Well, if you're thinking is now the time, then yes, now is the time.
Simple as that?
It's as simple as that. It's just, well, pick up the phone, talk to my aged care, organise an assessment.
Yes.
Let them come in and have an interview. It's sometimes over the phone, sometimes in person. And at the end of that, be honest with them.
Yes.
So don't be prideful. Just be honest. And, then you will end up with a set of services that are available to you.
And so what would be the number one tip you'd give somebody that was going through that process?
If you find the My Aged Care line or online system daunting, get your daughter or son or friend or whomever you feel comfortable using to actually assist you. So you can have a representative deal with My Aged Care.
Okay.
So the complexities of the system don't have to be yours alone. You don't have to just rely on yourself. You can actually have some help to do this.
Yes.
And certainly there are plenty of people out there that will assist in walking you through this process, us included.
Yes.
And you do have to persevere a little bit to get through the assessment process in the sense that, quite often they'll say, somebody will be in touch, and then you have to follow them up. So it's like any government department, it's not super efficient.
No.
But having said that, it can be super efficient on occasions. So it's the luck of the draw. You just have to step your way through the pathway.
Right.
And if you need help to do that, then ask for help. Don't just put it on the back burner and bury your head.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And then what about the home care providers? How do people know whether they're either talking to the right home care providers, what they should be looking for? I know you've done a lot of work in this space here on the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of tips that you sort of could share with our listeners on that?
So I think it's important to, first of all, be able to have a good conversation with the providers that you do choose to interview. So you'll get a gut feel. So that's the first one, is you'll get a gut feel for how that organisation will perform based on the person who's talking to you. You can absolutely shop around. You do not have to go with the first provider that comes to see you. You should shop around. You should ask about their fees and charges. So all providers are basically not allowed to charge you more than 10% of the package budget as their administration costs, but that doesn't mean to say that they will all have even billing in terms of services. So, for example, an hour of nursing with one organisation might be a completely different price to an hour of nursing with a different organisation. That has got to do with size and scale and how they operate their business. So you should ask for pricing. You should actually interview a few of them. Talk to other people who might have accessed home care and find out what they found to be good or bad. We're happy to point you in the direction if you want to give us a call. Yes. But certainly there are hundreds of providers out there. You need to know that that provider can give you the services that you're actually asking for. So if you need, for example, meal preparation, and they don't have somebody that can provide that, then what's the point in going with them? Yep. So you need to have an idea of what types of services you would want to access, and then actually ask the questions. You need to ask them whether they have any exit fees, or whether they have any what their charging structure looks like. You need to ask them whether you would have the same carer each time. So in other words, will the people that come to your door actually be familiar to you, or will it be a different person every time? I think that's quite hard to handle if you have a different person every time and you don't know, especially from a security point of view, whether that person is actually with whatever provider they say they're from.
Yes.
It is a trust relationship at the end of the day, and you do need to know that, you can actually rely on that provider to rock up. So sometimes the smaller providers actually give better service, but they might also be more expensive. So it's a juggling act, and you do have to kind of look at that and weigh it up.
Yeah, and I know obviously you've done a lot of work in this space, so I think the easiest way would be to reach out to us, ask the question, because you've been in this market for a very long period of time, and we've just gone through a bit of a due diligence process on understanding who's doing what differentiates the services, and
what the strengths and weaknesses are of each organisation.
Absolutely, because each of the high quality ones, they've got their own strengths.
They do.
So it's matching A with A as opposed to trying to.
Correct.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Right. Well, look, Belinda, thank you for joining us today. It's been absolutely fascinating, and I think, to me, this was just such a good conversation to have, because I think as people get older, we want them to understand there is help available. I think the longer that they can live in their home, where it's their castle, it's where they feel safe, they feel secure, having people come in and actually take off some of the burden to really allow them to, I guess, live in their home for longer. I think, to me, that's a service that we can certainly provide at RFS Advice, and just help educate people around this path. So thank you for joining.
That's a pleasure.
And until next time, stay well. Thank you.
Thank you.